Thank you for the great introduction, and I'm so happy to be here with you all. Thank you for coming and joining us on this fine morning. So today, it is my pleasure to sit down with an industry leader who is at the helm of the oldest Islamic bank. And as mentioned by our lovely MC here, he is renowned for his transformative contribution and visionary leadership. So what we will be discussing or asking Dr. Adnan is to guide us through this session through the remarkable growth of Islamic banking while offering insights into the sector's future trajectory. So, Dr. Adnan, I have to start this session by asking you, what does it take to lead the world's oldest Islamic bank into the future? And what I mean by that is, how do you balance preserving the foundational principles of Islamic banking while driving innovation and growth?
Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I would have wanted to say it takes a lot of money to lead the largest Islamic bank in the world, but it doesn't. No, I think you've got to be true to your principles. When Islamic banking started way back in 1975, clearly at that time it was an alternative to conventional banking, and it targeted certain niche segments, but today it has become a global phenomenon. What does it take? Obviously, we've got to make sure that there's a balance between tradition and transformation. Or if you want to say it another way, between principles and progress. At no point in time does, leading an Islamic bank meaning compromising with the principles of Sharia or ethical banking. But at the same time, you cannot be complacent and you can't bank on beliefs. You've got to also make sure that there is adequate evolution, because that is the name of the game today, which would mean that you've got to be as transformative as you can. Because, if you just keep banking on your laurels that you're the first Islamic bank in the world, or, you are probably the largest global Islamic player, it's going to disappear very quickly. So I think in the last decade or so, what the Islamic banking industry has faced is that massive transformation in terms of evolution, in terms of making sure that everything that they do becomes very customer-centric in nature. And that is obviously balanced by technology and the digital imprint that we are talking about these days, artificial intelligence, blockchain, fintechs, and what have you. So I think the way Islamic banking actually has panned out in the last 10 years is that while it has stayed true to its principles, it has completely transformed itself and become so evolutionary in nature. And it has adapted and adopted digital transformation that has allowed it to not just be growing within some of the domiciled regions, but also spreading it globally.
Yes, and you mentioned technology here, and I think a lot of people here want to know, going into some details, how has Dubai Islamic Bank adapted to the huge technological shifts and advancements like we're seeing in the banking sector, more specifically like blockchain and fintech, and you mentioned AI as well, to innovate Islamic banking services, in your view?
I think, Lena, not just Islamic banks, but any financial institution today has to adopt this digital transformation. And that is exactly what even Islamic banking or Dubai Islamic Bank has done. Because if you do not do that, you are not going to meet, the growing demands of your customers. Because today, the focus is more on customers' journeys, customers' centricity, as well as making sure that everything that you do is very agile and it's very lean. Now, if you want Islamic banking also to come out of that myth of that traditional way of operations, you've got to make sure that you have the stack of technology that allows customers to be onboarded, very seamlessly. And once they are onboarded seamlessly, their experience with the bank has also got to be as, for the choice of a better words, as interesting, or as pleasing as they can. So in order to do all of that, you've got to make sure that your technology is probably now more cloud-based than core banking-based. You've got to also make sure that you have AI-enabled functionalities like, facial recognition if you want to do your KYC. Compliance has become extremely important these days.
Yes, for sure.
But that doesn't mean that you need all your customers to come and sit in front of you. You can also enable, facial recognitions, which is artificially intelligent. You also then make sure that security is paramount. So blockchain comes into play. So what Dubai Islamic Bank has done is that as recent as this year, we've made sure that we've got engagements with IBM Consulting, for example. That comes to my mind. That has allowed us to to make sure that we've got artificially intelligent customer-based journeys. We've got, in order to make sure that security is the prime focus, we have, engagements with Moro Hub, for example, within the UAE that allow us to make sure that there is real-time, threat detection. So I think what Islamic banks and Islamic financial institutions around the world have done is that they have also adapted this technology, which if you don't, you will be very quickly, be written off.
Yes, for sure. And you've mentioned a lot about technology just now, but I really wanted to ask if DIB is planning, or can we expect it to integrate with certain fintech platforms which are really competing with traditional banks, Islamic banks, just the whole banking system. And if you're planning to maybe to acquire one of these platforms, or are you building maybe a platform within DIB?
So I think the first simple answer to that is yes, Islamic banks as well as Dubai Islamic Bank have to step on it and have to be a part of this trend. I'm not going to say anything that is going to move the price, but for example, if you actually look at what we've been doing recently, we have just acquired, a digital, fintech firm within Turkey, for that matter.
Oh, okay.
That allows us to set up the first Islamic digital bank within Turkey. Now, why is this important? Is because not just that market is very lucrative and under-penetrated when it comes to financial inclusion, but it allows us to venture out into a space that would only grow from where we are. We've just soft launched this digital bank in April, May this year, and we are counting 10 million customers already. So that can actually tell you the kind of, the kind of pace at which digital banking specifically, and Islamic digital banking, has the potential of growing.
It's a huge niche, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the one thing that I would like to clarify to the audience is that, with Dubai Islamic Bank making inroads into not just within the UAE, but in major markets around the world, including Turkey now, the one thing that we've done well as a strategic outfit is that we have positioned ourselves a little differently. Gone are those days where you could only bank on beliefs, right? You've got to make sure that you come up with a proposition which is fit for purpose and it targets everyone. Today, if you, for example, look at the UAE and our operations within the UAE, right? We are probably the third or the fourth largest bank. And a decade ago, we probably were not even in the top 10. Now, how we've managed to do that is because we have come up with a value proposition that can attract anybody and everybody, and not just the Muslim base. It's because we firmly believe that Islamic banking is for all. We are never going to compromise our principles around Sharia, but we would also make sure that we are transformative and evolutionary in that process. And if you follow these key principles in making sure that that's how you operate in, you are clearly going to widen the customer base as well as the investor base. Today, the stakeholders within an Islamic bank or an Islamic financial institution are not only the customers, but regulators for that matter, analysts for that matter, rating agencies for that matter, investors. Now, if you need to attract all of these various stakeholders, then you've got to kind of change the way you do your business. You don't need to change your business, but you need to change the way you do your business. And I think that's where evolutionary practices have come in, and technology only plays a small part, but you've got to make sure that your key proposition targets everybody. Why should a customer who is probably sitting on the fence come to an Islamic bank if it's going to be more expensive or it does not match his or her needs? Today, a transformative Islamic bank is ensuring that it has something for everyone and without compromising its core traditions and its core roots. So I firmly believe in this ideology that, we got to make sure that we, innovate with integrity,
Yes.
right? So that's exactly what an Islamic bank should be doing.
Awesome. We're kind of running out of time, but this is a question that I really wanted to ask, and obviously to make the audience understand a bit more. Now, we all know that interest rates have no place in Islamic banking, but what we're seeing is that Islamic banks usually benefit in a high interest rate environment. And now we have a US president that is coming in and promising lower interest rates in the Federal Reserve. Does that affect you? And how do you handle this fluctuating interest rates that are going around in the world? Just to sort of make it clear, what is that relation, if any?
I'm not surprised with Lina's background. She would ask me a political question, right? I'm not surprised. But listen, I think it's a myth that that higher interest rate environments are beneficial for Islamic banks. Okay. And I think thank you for that question, because it gives me an opportunity to clear that, is because, whether the interest rates are high or low, any financial institution will benefit if you've got a good balance sheet structure. Which means that if you've got liabilities or low-cost deposits, you can always benefit even if interest rates are high or down. So, of course, it's a level playing field. Islamic banks are competing within the same global space that conventional banks are competing. I don't think so. Interest rates have a direct correlation with President Trump, if I can. It's a function of where the inflation in the global economies are. Of course, because we are in a region that are pegged to the US dollars, we take interest in knowing that, where the interest rates are and what the next move of the Fed is. I think Mohammed and Mustafa did cover this in the previous panel that we are looking at, roughly around 100 basis points decrease in the upcoming 12 months. But, nobody has a crystal ball. What we've seen in the recent past is exactly completely opposite to the narrative that comes out of the Fed meeting. So I think we are also holding our breaths and making sure that we are riding the wave. But even if interest rates go down, Dubai Islamic Bank, and I'm sure that most of the Islamic banks are very well poised to make sure that they can benefit from their structural balance sheets. But more importantly, I think we are in a region which is poised for growth. So whether interest rates are up or down, I think there's a lot of activity that is happening within this region. Aside the geopolitical issues, we feel that 2025 is going to be another tremendous year for financial institutions.
For sure. I wanted to ask as well, I mean, DIB's investment portfolio is huge and pretty impressive. But you are a majority shareholder in a company like Dior, and Dior is obviously very well known in the region and in the UAE. How would you assess your investment in Dior?
Yeah. There are some new projects Dior is launching, so if you guys are looking at the real estate market, you can.
Yeah.
But listen, I think Dior is a property developer.
Yes.
And we have a majority stake in Dior, and we have a controlling influence. But it's not a core business of Dubai Islamic Bank, right? So, Dior does not contribute more than 5% of the overall revenues. Okay. Having said that, it's an important subsidiary for us. It's a line-by-line consolidated within our financial statements. We have worked very hard to make sure where Dior is today. It's an extremely robust company. Today, it is taking advantage of the real estate market, which I know is also going to grow within 2025 and 2026. So I think it's a great time for investors to look at investments within the real estate space. And I think how is it different from 2010 is that today it's a end users market, and it's not a speculative market anymore, because every activity that is happening within the real estate sector is end use. And that is what is driving prices up. And when prices go up, it benefits companies like the Diors of the world, or some of the listed companies. And being a shareholder, I think it's a great opportunity for us also to make sure that we maximize the most. But clearly, I think it's a company that has done well in the recent past, and we have a very clear strategy for the company going forward.
Okay, I know we ran out of time, but I want to make use of my time here with you, Dr. Adnan, and I have to ask this last question to you. Where you see Islamic banking industry heading in the next decade, And what will be the critical factors for maintaining relevance and growth, in your view?
I think you've got to make sure that you continue to evolve, because Islamic banking has, come a long way in the last 50 odd years with the establishment of Dubai Islamic Bank. 2025, we are going to complete 50 years, which means Islamic banking completes 50 years, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot has happened in the last 2 decades or so. And I think if you just look at the direction of travel, I can always tell you that this is going to just grow further and further, not only because people are adopting to it, but a lot of corporates and sovereigns around the world are also understanding the benefit of Islamic finance. Of course, when there is volatility and there is a lot of crises around the globe, this financial industry has done better, relatively speaking, to its conventional counterparts. So I feel that, the future is very bright. And we've only scratched the tip of the iceberg. So hopefully, conferences like these and summits like these only clear the air and allow people to understand that, Islamic banking is here to stay. What used to be an alternative form for conventional banking has actually now become a norm. And I think that's the reason why there is a lot of adoption in Islamic finance, and you're seeing more and more players, as well as investors, taking up this.
It's a pleasure to hear your insights.
Pleasure.
And
Pleasure's
give it
mine.
up for Dr. Adnan Chilwan, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you very much.